Hi, welcome back. Okay, we've talked about, in the last video, we talked about the cash flow statement. Now let's have a look at the uses of the cash statement, or what are the purposes for preparing the cash flow statement. Okay, the main purpose for preparing a cash flow statement is to help businesses make better decisions in relation to cash management. As in practice, many businesses do fail due to liquidity problems or ineffective management of cash. So having a cash flow statement definitely helps the owner to make better decisions in terms of cash management. All right, so the following are the uses of a cash flow statement. The first one, okay, probably the most important one, is to aid decision making about the firm's cash activities by detailing the sources and uses of cash during a period of time. Information in cash flow statement helps the owner to assess how much cash is from operating activities, okay, versus investing activities and financing activities. Okay, if a firm generates negative net cash flows from its operating activities, then it will be unable to meet its payment obligation unless there are cash contributions from the owner or external finance. All right, so if the business generates negative cash flows from the operating activities, it means it needs to be this part, this gap in cash flow needs to be made up somewhere in either financing activities or investing activities. Usually it's financing activities. Okay, the second purpose why we need to prepare cash flow statement is to assess cash performance relative to cash targets. So the cash flow statement can be compared against the budgeted cash flow statement. Okay, we'll talk more about the budgeted cash flow statement in later chapters, chapter 17. Okay, so the actual statement is compared against the budgeted cash flow statement to see whether the actual cash performance is better or worse than expected. All right, so that any necessary corrective action can be taken. So from a strategic point of view, the business can think about whether it needs to adopt any corrective action to help it better manage its cash. The third purpose, to assist in planning for future cash activities. Information in the cash flow statement can be used as the basis to set targets for future cash performance. Okay, it can be used as a benchmark as the basis to set targets for future cash performance. And finally, to facilitate the calculation of financial ratios or indicators for further analysis. And we'll talk about ratios later on in chapter 18 and 19. Okay, have a look at this graph over here. So I've plotted this graph. You can see that if we can graph net cash flows, then it can enhance the qualitative characteristic of understandability. Okay, so it's a graphical representation showing cash flows of Marcus Manchester for the quarter ended 31st December 2015. Okay, for the actual cash flow statement, just refer to page 267 in your textbook. Okay, so on the graph, okay, the blue bar represents net cash flows from operations. Okay, the blue bar here. So it's negative, actually a negative cash flow from operations. Certainly does raise some alarm for the owner to look further into this. Why is the business generating a negative cash flow from the operation side? Okay, a negative cash flows from investing activities. Okay, it may be due to that the business has purchased some expensive non-current assets during the period. Okay, financing activities, in the green bar here, it's positive. Okay, the business may have had some cash inflows from lending, okay, loans, new loans, or capital contributions by the owner. And the overall effect, net it's a net decrease in cash position as highlighted in the yellow bar here. Okay, so the graphical representation shows you very clearly from the different categories, okay, whether it's a cash inflow or a cash outflow, and what is the overall effect on the cash position. All right, so if you were asked to interpret the previous graph, please list at least 3 points that you would like to comment on in relation to the firm's cash flows. It's very important that you develop the skill to be able to interpret graphs. Okay, so have a think about, refer back to the graph on the previous page, have a think about what are the 3 noticeable points you'd like to comment on in relation to the firm's cash flows. Perhaps, one, you want to comment on the negative cash flows from the operation side, why that might be the case, why is there a negative cash flow from the investing activities, why is there a positive cash inflow from financing activities, and what's the overall effect, okay, for the cash position.